gang, it's Matt the Old Florida Boy back with you. Today, let's talk about the great myth of bugging out. Bugging out's not a new concept. It's been around for quite a while, as you all know. Basically, it says that most of you, I don't know, 90-95% of you, live within 30 minutes or an hour of a major city. And major cities have been deemed to be instant death traps in the event of a shit hits the fan situation. EMP pulse, civil unrest, pandemic, I don't care what it is. Big cities are deemed to be instantaneous death traps. So the logic goes that you go home, in the event of a situation like this, you go home, grab your bug out bag, head on out into the woods, avoid the city, live out the movie Red Dawn, hopefully with the girls included. Let's talk about everything that's wrong with what I just said. Okay, if you haven't seen the original movie Red Dawn, you should probably go back and watch it. It'll give you a little context about what I'm talking about here. This video is primarily meant for the single people, the single individuals that have a plan to bug out to nowhere. It's not really meant for you guys that are already members of pre-planned groups that already have a pre-plan about where you're going to meet and where you're going to go. These are for the single individuals that think, I'm just going to go home and grab my bug out bag and I'm going to head out into the woods. Okay? Not to say that you guys in groups can't pick up some situations, but this is primarily meant for the single individuals that are not part of a group and have no plan. Okay, so let's talk about this in order. Okay, first order of business. Where are you going to go? Most of us live in the city or in the suburbs, in nice neighborhoods and nice streets, but all of us have those one or two friends, you know, that are kind of rednecky, that live out on the edge of town. Some of them have chickens, some of them have an acre of land, some of them have dogs, you know, but we all have those friends that live out there. We'll call our friend Jimmy, okay? If your plan is to go out, grab your bug out bag, and all I got to do is walk the 2 or 3 miles to the edge of town to go to Jimmy's house, let's ask these questions first. Number one, does Jimmy know we're coming? The last thing you need to do is stumble bumble up on Jimmy's house at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night when Jimmy's all tired, he's been up all day protecting all of his stuff, and he sees some guy walking in down the street towards his house, maybe carrying a weapon, maybe carrying a rifle, and Jimmy doesn't know it's you. Jimmy's going to shoot you in the face before he finds out that it's you, okay? So if you're going over to Jimmy's house, make damn sure that Jimmy knows you're coming, and make damn sure that you have a signal to signal Jimmy. I don't care if it's 3 flashes on a flashlight, figure something out. You don't want Jimmy to shoot you in the face, and you don't want to shoot Jimmy in the face, okay? The second part of that is you think, well, I don't really got no friend like Jimmy, so I'm just going to go out in the woods. Now let's talk about everything that's wrong with going out in the woods. Okay, so now we decided that we ain't going to Jimmy's house because we don't know nobody like Jimmy. We're just going to go out in the woods. Okay, how are you going to get out in the woods? Are you going to drive your car? Well, if there's an EMP pulse, which is probably the most common thing that's going to be a shit hit the fan. You know, somebody's going to do an EMP pulse and it's going to knock everything electrical out. So your car ain't going to work, which means you have to walk, okay? Very, very few of us are in good enough shape to walk the 2, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 miles down a road to get to where you think nobody's going to find you. And I don't mean, you know, hey, I'm really in shape. I do 15 push-ups a day and I do 10 sit-ups. And then I go stuff myself with a bag of chips and lay on the couch and watch TV. Now, you're not going to make it. You're going to walk 6 or 8 blocks and you're going to have a heart attack, okay? So you want to be mindful of that, where you're going to go. and how you're going to get there. If it's in a situation where everybody's rushing to get out of town, you think you're just going to fold in with the people walking down the street and nothing's going to happen to you? That's a bad assumption, okay? You're going to have to figure out a way to get out of town and get to someplace safe where a minimum of people know where you are and where you're going, so other people don't come over and try to steal your stuff and or kill you, okay? You're gonna have to have at least some kind of physical conditioning that's going to allow you to walk out there. And if you think that this doesn't include your wife, you're sadly mistaken. I had some conversations with some people a few years ago about bug out bags. And I was having a conversation with a guy and he says, oh, I'll just bug out. In the event of that happening, I'll just go home and I'll grab my bug out bag and then my wife will grab her bug out bag and we'll just bug out. Okay, where are you going to bug out to? How are you going to bug out? What's in your bug out bag? Some of these people, and we'll get into bug out bags in a while, but some of these people pack everything including the kitchen sink in a bug out bag, and it's really, really heavy. So what's going to happen? Yeah, you'll grab yours, your wife will grab hers. In about 2 blocks, your wife's going to be worn out, and then you're going to be carrying 2 bug out bags. So you're not going to be able to go as far. So think about these things. It could make a difference. It could make a difference between life and death, literally. Where are you going to go? Are you going to go to Jimmy's, or are you going to go out in the woods? Okay? How are you going to get there? Okay? Think about that. It's all very important. So now let's talk about going out in the woods. Okay, so we made the decision that we're going to leave our house and we're going to go out in the woods and live like the movie Red Dawn, preferably with the girls included. No, not really. Okay, so you're going to go out in the woods. So let's say you find a place out in the woods. You trudge through, you walk the 5 or 10 miles, and in Central Florida, you're going to have to contend with a lot of stuff. Like, it's July in Central Florida, and it's 92, 94 degrees, humidity's 85, 88%, and it's like a steam bath out there. Then in the afternoon, the big thunderstorms come up. So you're going to sweat your ass to death. You're going to get all dehydrated. Then you're going to get drenched by a thunderstorm, maybe struck by lightning. And by the time you walk that 5 or 10 miles, it's going to take you several hours, to go through some challenging conditions. You get out in the woods, okay? Preferably, or hopefully, in your bug out bag, you got a tarp that you can make a shelter out of, that you can get out of the rain, you can get out of the wind. You're probably going to have some light food rations because you can't carry months worth of food in a bug out bag. So you're going to go out in the woods. The first thing that you're going to have to get is water. So one of the most important things if you're bugging out is to have some kind of water filtration system. This is a little pouch, a little Alice pouch that I put on my Alice belt, and it has my whole water kit. It's got a Sawyer Mini with some little pieces of cloth to strain it. It's got the bag and everything else. Okay, I can drink literally swamp water with this. It might not have that great of a taste, but it ain't gonna kill you. Throw some potable aqua tablets in there too, because you can't go without water. It's the rule of threes. What is it? 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. That's something like that. It's like the rule of threes. But the most important thing is going to be water. So I would get, if I was you, I would include a Grail water filter, or make yourself up a little pack with a Sawyer Mini. It'll work just fine. If you don't have water in the heat of Central Florida, you're going to have a heat stroke and you're going to die. It's just that simple. And if you think you can go and you can just drink out of Bull Creek or the Crabgrass Creek out there, if you think you can just drink creek water, well, you can once. Then in about 24 hours, you're going to be spraying the forest out of your butthole, and puking at the same time, and it's just not going to be good. That is, unless you get one of the bad viruses in there, then it's going to kill you, and you're not going to be good times. Okay, so if you're going out in the woods, make sure you have water taken care of. Now let's talk about food. Okay, let's say you made it back home, you grabbed your bag, you grabbed your wife and her bag, let's say, and you made it out of town without anybody seeing you. And you walked your ass off, you braved the heat, you braved the thunderstorms, and you made it out of town to, I don't know, 10 miles out of town, and you found a place way back in the woods. Great. And you think that you can stay there until society rebuilds itself. Wonderful. What happens if society takes 6 months to rebuild itself and you can't go home for 6 months? What do you have in your bug out bag for food? A couple protein bars, maybe an MRE. Your wife's got maybe a few mountain houses. Pretty much the same thing. You got enough food for 3 days. I'm talking 6 months. 3 days don't equal 6 months. Your ass is going to be starving or so weak from hunger that you're not going to be able to get back home. Okay? So, I know a lot of people out there who say, I'm macho man, I'll just go hunting and kill my food like Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett and all them other guys that were back there. Here's the first question I would ask you. A, have you ever hunted before in your life? Do you know how to hunt? Do you know where to hunt, what to hunt, what? Do you know how to do it? 2, have you ever killed anything before? Okay, you might have watched a lot of hunting videos. I could do that. But have you ever killed another animal before? I'm not talking about a human. If you line up on a deer or a turkey or a hog or something like that, believe me, the first time that you ever do it, you're nervous. Okay? You are. I've been hunting around here for 50 years. I know how to do it. And I'm not even confident in my ability to feed myself for 6 months. Hell, I've been hunting before, and I haven't seen a living thing for days. I was convinced that there wasn't a single living thing in the whole damn swamp. You know, you don't even hear anything. Most of that activity is at night. When you're sleeping, all the deer are out laughing at you because they're munching out and eating pretty good, and you're starving to death. So, have you ever hunted before? Do you know how to do it? Have you ever killed anything? Okay. 3, do you know what to do with it after you kill it? Do you know how to gut it? Do you know how to skin it? I'm talking from a deer to a turkey to a hog to a squirrel to a possum to an armadillo to anything that you're gonna see. Okay? Do you know what to do with it? Do you know how to skin it? Do you know how to gut it? Do you know how to preserve the meat? Do you know how to preserve the hide in case you're gonna need it? You know, these are just some of the things that I'm going over. What are you gonna hunt with? That brings us to firearms. Okay? And firearms are a very important part of the bugging out process. If you think that you're just gonna bug out with a knife and I'm gonna cut a spear and I'm gonna put the knife on the end of the spear with some electrical tape and I'm gonna hide it in a tree, and when the pig walks down the tree, I'm gonna be like the movie Rambo. I'm gonna jump on him and cut him with my knife. Man, A, you're gonna jump out the tree, break your leg, then you got a bigger problem. And B, if you cut the pig a little bit, he's gonna get really pissed off and turn around and gore the shit out of you if it's a boar hog, and probably give you more problems than your broken leg from falling out the tree. Okay? So, you gotta have a firearm. What kind of firearm are you gonna take? Let's get into that right now. All right, let's talk about firearms. And I'm talking about the newer people that don't have a lot of firearms, not our regular deer hunters that have high-powered rifles like 30-06, 30-30. You may have AR-15s, you know, and several handguns laying around. These are the people that aren't gun people, so to speak. You guys that have the rest of your big rifles and your experienced hunters, that's great. That's a horse of a different color. But if you're new to this and you're building a bug out plan and you're not used to hunting, there's a couple of different options. Number one is you could use a bow and arrow. I would ask you, have you ever shot a bow and arrow before? A bow and arrow is not an easy thing to use. It takes a lot of practice. and you're limiting yourself to 20 or 30 yards maximum, which is a pretty close shot with a bow and arrow. Plus, you got to practice with it. So let's just take a bow and arrow out of the equation. You know, I used to have a bow, and I used to bow hunt, and it wasn't all it's cracked up to be. So let's just take a bow and arrow, because you ain't Robin Hood. Let's just take a bow and arrow out of the equation. And now we're talking about firearms. You may have a home protection gun in the nightstand, you know, maybe a 380 or a 9mm pistol. Okay, some of you have 38s, 357 Magnum. That's the only gun you own. Okay, that would work, but you're still on a 380, 9mm, even up to 38, 357. You're talking about, realistically, unless you practice a lot, and most people don't. They buy a gun and they put it in the bedside stand, in case somebody breaks in their house. Hey, I got a gun. That's probably more trouble than it's worth, or more dangerous than it's worth. You're probably limiting yourself to 50 yards and in, even with a 357 Magnum. When you go down to 9mm or down to 380 or a 22 pistol, you know, you're calling it a pretty close quarters proposition at best. Okay, but that's still better than nothing. And believe me, you're gonna shoot and you're gonna eat literally anything when you get hungry enough. I'm talking about raccoons, possums, armadillos, snakes, turtles. You're gonna eat. When you get hungry enough, you're gonna shoot it and you're gonna eat it. Okay. A better proposition would be a 22 rifle, even if it's a 22 long rifle, like a Ruger 10/22, something short, something compact, something that's pretty accurate, and something that you can put a low power scope on. Even a 22 rifle is really good for game out to 50, 60, 75 yards maximum. And now that puts you in the realm of, I see a turkey walking through the swamp and he's 50 yards away. You know, you're not going to hit him with a 9mm or a 380. The only thing you're just going to do is you're going to shoot that 9mm or 380, and it's going to be louder than the 22, and you're going to give away your position. You're going to give away your position to other game, but more importantly, you're going to give away your position to other people. You want to be, when you're hidden, you want to be as quiet as possible. So, I'm not recommending a high-powered rifle, a 30-06, 30-30. Leave those to the other guys that are more experienced hunters. I'm recommending a 22 long rifle. If you have a 22 Magnum, that's great. I have a Marlin 783 22 Magnum that I've had for about 50 years. It's the single most accurate rifle that I've ever owned. And I've shot scores of wild turkeys with it. I've even taken a few deer with it. They're not really legal to shoot deer with a 22 rifle in Florida and other places. But if it's shit hits the fan, everything's on the table. Just try to shoot a deer in the head or the upper neck area, if you shoot it in the body, you're never going to find it. But a 22 long rifle or a 22 Magnum rifle is small enough, it's compact enough, it's quiet enough not to give away your position, and you're not gonna, that sound's gonna go away in the woods or the swamp pretty quickly. You're not gonna scare all the other game away, but you can confidently shoot those things because, you know, they're not loud, they don't have much recoil at all. You can confidently shoot an animal, a deer, or a turkey, or a small pig, okay, or a raccoon. If you can sneak up to somebody's farm and shoot a chicken, I'd shoot a chicken without waking a guy up because he can shoot you. You know, there's a lot of different ways. But I think that the most important firearm would be a small, light 22 long rifle, like one of those Henry Arms, like the AR-7 survival rifles, where the whole thing breaks down and it puts in the buttstock. 22 long rifle, perfect survival rifle. That thing would do anything that you want it to. So that's just a word about firearms. You do whatever you want to with yours, but I would recommend that you go with a small, basic 22 long rifle. Easy to shoot, easy to handle, no recoil. Your old lady can use it too. Okay, now let's go on to the next topic. Okay, let's talk about non-critical items. And it seems kind of counterproductive to talk about non-critical items, because in a shit hits the fan situation, everything is basically a critical item. But I'm not talking about food, I'm not talking about water, I'm not talking about guns and ammo, I'm not talking about shelter. Even if you get to take your car along with you, there's no way you can jam pack in all of your non-critical items, like cold medicine, allergy medicine, diabetes medicine, heart medicine, medications. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you run out of those? What are you going to do when your flashlight runs out of batteries? How are you going to get more batteries? How are you going to get more, if you wear contact lenses, where are you going to get contact lens solution? And I remember when I was wearing contact lenses, without them, I couldn't see a damn thing. Now I got laser surgery and I'm great. But all of these non-critical items, all of these everyday hygiene things. What happens when you run out of toilet paper? What happens when you run out of toothpaste? What happens when you run out of, you know what I'm talking about, and you know where I'm going with this. All of the non-critical items that you think are not critical for day-to-day survival, that we take for granted living in our houses. You're out in the woods, you're going to run out of them pretty quickly. You're going to run out of, do you have enough gauze for bandages? Can you sew up a rip if your bug screen rips? Can you do a lot of that stuff? Do you have the supplies to even do it? Do you have needle and thread? Do you have a little bit of glue? Do you have all that kind of stuff? And you just can't, there's not space in a bug out bag, or there's not space in a vehicle for all of the non-critical items. So then there's the question, and I know you're thinking about it. Well, where I'm staying, I'll just move a little closer to town, and I'll find a place a little closer to town, and I'll be like they are in The Walking Dead. I'll make these little raiding missions at night, and I'll avoid the people, and I'll avoid the zombies, and I'll break into a store, and I'll get my supplies. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose of bugging out. Anyway, moving closer to town puts you closer to the danger, So I'm just talking about being mindful of non-critical items. And in a shit as a fan situation, everything's going to be a critical item. So that I'm just bringing it up to make you aware of it. So let's go on to what the point of this whole video is. Okay, so let's get down to what the point of this whole video was. For most of the world, bugging out is just going to be an impossibility. I mean it is. Some of you out there are going to have the wherewithal, and you're going to have the skill sets that are going to allow you to do this on a long-term basis. Most of you are not. After a few days or a week, you're going to be done. This isn't like the Old West. You're not going to go out and build a log cabin. Most of you are not going to have the skill sets to survive out in the woods. It would be hard for me. I've been doing this around here for a long time. It would be extremely hard for me to do it on a long-term basis. You're going to get, think about it. It's not like when you go to one of these survival schools, or whether you go out hiking or camping or hunting. You go out and you might stay overnight and go deer hunting with your buddies, or you might go to the whatever survival school and cut yourself real bad. Oh shit! Slap a gauze on it, and I'm gonna go to the emergency room. Okay, So what happens if you're out in a real world survival situation and you have a bad run hunting and you don't shoot anything for a week? You have a bad run fishing, you don't catch anything for a week, or the weather changes and you get caught with the wrong clothes. Or, there's just so much that can go wrong. When you're in a survival situation, your margin is zero. Your margin for error is zero. There's no place that you can go to replace what you're consuming and what you're using. So, what are you going to do? The only thing you're trading for is you're trading for being at the mercy of others in a suburban or urban or city situation and facing the shit hits the fan in there, or you're going to trade that for the harsh and brutal realities of Mother Nature. And brother, it's tough out there, in the swamp and the heat and the skeeters and the snakes and the spiders and everything else. I'd rather stay in. I'd rather stay in my house. So it's, let's face it, bugging out is a myth. Having a bug out bag is a myth, okay? On a very, very small amount of situations, you're going to be able to do it. Most of the time, the only thing you're doing is extending your life a little bit, and it's going to be your ass anyway, okay? So, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but most of y'all ain't gonna make it. So that leaves us to, well, Matt, what am I gonna do? For the next video, we're gonna talk about prepping and bugging in and what's entailed with that and why that is not the best situation in the world either. So, I hope I didn't depress you, but I hope I gave you something to think about in this video. And they're all important topics, I believe, very, very important topics, and you should at least cover every single one of those and practice every single one of those before you even talk about bugging out. I don't even want to hear no bugging out. So the next video, we're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about bugging in and prepping and why that's not the best idea also. So, coming to you from the workbench of death, this is Matt the Old Florida Boy, and I may or may not see you on the trail.